At my own wedding, my husband's family asked me to step out of the family photos. Not once. 3 times. 3 different photographers. 3 different groupings. Each time someone from his family quietly suggested I move aside so they could get just the family. I am his wife. I had been his wife for 4 hours. And my husband said nothing. Stay with me. Because what I did 6 months later, when I finally said something nobody saw coming. This is that story. Hey everyone, welcome back to Verdict Stories. New story every single day. Subscribe right now because you will not want to miss tomorrow's. Today's story is about the moment you realize your husband's family has decided who you are to them, and your husband has decided to let them. Let's get into it. My name is Claire. I'm 36 years old. I've been married to my husband James for 2 years. And the story of our wedding day is one I have never told in full until now. Let me tell you about the Harmon family. The Harmons are a large, close, loud family. 4 siblings, 12 cousins, 3 sets of aunts and uncles, and a grandmother named Ruth who sits at the center of everything like a queen who has never been told she isn't one. They have family dinners every Sunday. They take family vacations together every summer. They have a group chat with 247 messages a day. James is the youngest of 4. He grew up in this family the way you grow up inside something large and warm, surrounded, supported, never quite alone. He loves them without reservation. I knew this before I married him. What I didn't fully understand was what it would mean for me. James and I dated for 3 years before we got engaged. In those 3 years, I attended 42 Harmon family events, I counted, eventually after the wedding. 42 dinners, holidays, birthdays, graduations. At each one I was polite and warm and interested. I learned everyone's names, remembered their children's birthdays, brought the right food to the right events. I was never rude included, but I was never fully included either. There was always a slight gap, the way a room can be full of people and still feel like you're standing slightly outside the circle. I told myself it was just how large families were with newcomers. I told myself it would change after the wedding. The wedding was in June. 200 guests, outdoor ceremony, everything beautiful. James cried at the altar. I cried too. For the first hour I felt completely, entirely, perfectly happy. Then the photographers started gathering families for portraits. The first time it happened, I was standing next to James when his mother said to the photographer, not to me, to the photographer, let's get one with just the Harmon children first. I stepped back. Reasonable. Fine. That's a normal family photo. The second time was 20 minutes later. A grouping of grandchildren around Ruth. Someone, I didn't see who, said, Claire, you don't need to be in this one. I stepped back again. Ruth's biological grandchildren. Also reasonable. The third time was not reasonable. It was a photo of James and his siblings and their spouses. All 4 siblings. All 4 spouses except me. James's brother's wife was there. James's sister's husband was there. James's other sister's fiancé was there. And James's mother said to me, with a smile I will spend years thinking about, we want to get one of just the original group before everyone joined. Before everyone joined. I was his wife. I had been his wife for 4 hours. And I was everyone who joined. I stepped back. I smiled. I watched my husband stand in a photo with his siblings and their partners while I stood 6 feet away holding my bouquet. And James said nothing. I didn't say anything at the wedding. I made a decision in that moment, the same kind of decision I've heard described as going somewhere quiet inside yourself, to get through the day. To be present for the parts that mattered. To deal with the rest later. Later took 6 months. We came back from our honeymoon and settled into married life, and I waited to see if James would say anything. He didn't. I waited to see if his family's behavior would shift. It didn't. Sunday dinners, I was still slightly outside the circle. The group chat, I was at it eventually, a week after the wedding, after I mentioned it. At the 6-month mark, I asked James if we could talk. He said yes. We sat at the kitchen table after dinner, and I told him everything. Not just the photos, everything. 3 years of 42 events and slight gaps and circles I was adjacent to but never inside. And I told him about the photos. All 3 of them. In detail. James listened to all of it. When I finished, he said, "I didn't realize it was that bad." I said, "I need to ask you something and I need you to answer honestly. At the photo, the one with siblings and spouses, did you know I wasn't in it?" Long pause. He said, "Yes." I said, "Did you say anything?" He said, "No." I said, "Why not?" He said, "I didn't want to make a scene at our wedding." I sat with that for a moment. I said, "James, it was our wedding. If there was ever a day to make a scene about your wife being excluded from family photos, that was the day." He didn't have an answer for that. What I did next was not impulsive. I had thought about it for 6 months. I told James that I would not be attending Sunday dinners with his family until his mother acknowledged what had happened and apologized. Not a dramatic gesture, a boundary. A clear one. James was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "I'll talk to her." He did. I wasn't there for the conversation. He told me afterward that his mother had said she didn't remember it that way, that she hadn't meant anything by it, that I was being too sensitive. James said, "I told her that whether she meant it or not, it hurt you, and she needed to acknowledge that." His mother did not apologize. Not immediately. I did not attend Sunday dinners for 8 weeks. In week 9, his mother called me directly. First time in 2 years she had called me directly about anything. She said, and these were her exact words, "I'm sorry if you felt excluded. That was never my intention. It was not the apology I wanted. Sorry if you felt is not an apology, it's an acknowledgement dressed as one." But it was something. And James had fought for it. That mattered. I went back to Sunday dinners. Things are different now, not transformed, not healed, but different. Ruth still holds court. The group chat still has 247 messages a day. But I am in the photos now. Every single one. And if someone suggests otherwise, James says something before I have to. I posted on Reddit because people in my life were divided. Some thought I should have said something at the wedding. Some thought 8 weeks away from Sunday dinners was too extreme. Some thought I should have accepted the non-apology and moved on. Was I the asshole for the boundary I set? Reddit said no. The top comment, with over 46,000 upvotes, said, "You were excluded from your own wedding photos while your husband stood there and let it happen. You waited 6 months and then set one clear boundary. That's not extreme. That's incredibly restrained." And TA. Another comment said, "The sorry if you felt apology is a non-apology. You know that. But your husband fighting for even that, that's growth. Watch what he does next, not what his mother says." And one comment I keep returning to, "You were everyone who joined at your own wedding. And you smiled and held your bouquet and got through the day. You already proved you are stronger than that family deserves." I'm still proving it. Every Sunday. Was I the asshole? Reddit said no. I think they're right. Drop your verdict in the comments. Would you have said something at the wedding? Or would you have waited like Claire did? And A or YTA. New story tomorrow. Subscribe so you don't miss it. I'll see you then.